Hey everybody, we are in day 80 of our Bible reading plan, Numbers 25 through 27 and Psalm 80. And things are speeding along. Let's make our way through the reading today. Chapter 25 is a little bit sobering. Here's where we see a people who have had nothing but good from God, and God had been so faithful to them and had been very clear about his holiness and what it means to follow him. And instead they're swayed by the woman of the land and the way that the scripture says it, that Israel yoked himself to Baal of Peor. Instead of worshiping God, they now want to worship other gods, which we know God is a jealous God, and that is not meant in a negative way, but on the contrary, God knows what we need. And so he prioritizes us worshiping him because he knows that that is what will give us joy and happiness. And he had chosen this people and revealed his faithfulness and goodness to them and treated them differently and set them apart from the rest of the world. And what do? They basically, I don't mean to be crude, but they give him the finger basically, and they whore after other gods. And so there's a price to be paid for sin. I think we take sin so lightly in these days that we can read these stories and be like, why did God kill off 24,000 people? But remember, we're all already doomed to die. We're already condemned. We're born in sin because of what Adam and Eve did in the Garden of Eden. We've followed that in Scripture. There's a price to be paid for sin. If you haven't learned that from reading Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers, then you haven't been paying attention. And the only salvation is God's mercy by an intercessor. Here we see there's a man who intercedes on behalf of the people, and the Lord has mercy on them rather than killing them all. There's a price to be paid for sin, and then the Lord moves into numbering them again as a renew. Again, remember, he's still going to give them the promised land. Now there's a new numbering in chapter 26, which I know y'all enjoyed reading a lot. But basically, 38 years later, right before they enter the promised land, God is recounting the people so that he can allot the land appropriately based on sizes. And the Levites are still a separate tribe. They will not get a part of the land, but they have the portion of the Lord. I love chapter 27. You know, a lot of people think that women in the biblical times were shortchanged. Even now, people think that is far from true. Have you met any Christian woman lately? But also, I love that God puts in stories in his word, like the daughters of Zelophehad, who said, hey, we don't have any brothers, so what happens to our land? And God makes space for them to inherit the land as well. I love, though, the end of Numbers 27, verses 12 through 23. I think that is just a legacy of Moses and how he's turning things over to Joshua. Joshua's been there. If you want to see the first early mentions of Joshua in Exodus, even back to the day when the people had sinned with the golden calf, Joshua was up on the mountain with Moses, and then had stayed, in the temple near the ark. He just has a hunger for God, and he's been making godly decisions and being mentored by Moses. And now Moses turns the reins over to him. God allows Moses to see the promised land, though he does not go in. And again, a reminder of God's faithfulness. In fact, the big idea, and I'll end with this: God honors those who walk by faith, whose eyes are fixed on God's future promises and trust his faithfulness. Trust his faithfulness. Whether you see or not the things that you are striving for in this life, as long as your eyes see the Lord, you've got everything. And Moses understood it, so he eventually would move on to glory, a happy man. And for now, fix your eyes on God, trust his faithfulness. He's got you.